There are some commanders, when you speak about them, even their enemies fall silent. They built states. They erased nations. They made the world tremble. Now, you will learn about the top 5 most powerful and most brutal commanders in history. It's fascinating and full of surprises. Watch until the end, because the number 1 will shock everyone. Julius Caesar, ranked 5th in the top 100 BC, in the city of Rome. A boy was born into a patrician family, a noble bloodline, but he did not want to remain just another noble. His dream was one thing only: to completely change Rome. When Caesar was young, he was captured by pirates. He laughed and told them, "You release me, and I will come back and execute every single one of you." The pirates laughed. They thought he was joking. After he was freed, Caesar really did return and executed them all. Julius Caesar believed in himself deeply. He once said, "I would rather die first in Rome than live as second." How he came to power, Caesar did not found a new state, but he transformed Rome into an empire. He could not reach an agreement with the Senate. Then he crossed the famous Rubicon River with his army. This was an open act of rebellion. A civil war began. Caesar won and became the dictator of Rome for life. Years of rule, 49 to 44 BC, about 5 years. In reality, he held absolute power in Rome, the brutality of Julius Caesar on the road to victory. Caesar showed no mercy. During the Gallic Wars, about 1 million people were killed. About 1 million were enslaved. Cities that resisted were burned to the ground. Entire tribes were wiped from the face of the earth. Caesar's policy was simple: submit and live, resist and die. Julius Caesar's hardest battles: the Battle of Pharsalus, 48 BC against Pompey. The enemy had superior numbers, but Caesar used strategy and won a decisive victory. The famous Gallic campaigns, cold, hunger, rebellions, but Caesar never retreated. These battles made him the most feared commander in Rome. Territories conquered by Julius Caesar. Caesar expanded Roman lands dramatically. Gaul, modern France and Belgium, parts of Switzerland, Spain, North Africa, Asia Minor, total territory, approximately 3 million square kilometers. The death of Julius Caesar, 44 BC. The reason? Betrayal. When Caesar entered the Senate, his closest allies, his friends, even his student Brutus were there. He was stabbed 23 times. His final words became famous. Et tu, Brute? You too, Brutus? He conquered Rome. He changed history. But he could not keep the throne. Amir Timur, ranked 4th in the top 1336. In Kesh, modern-day Shahre-Sabz. A boy was born into the Barlas tribe, not a king by birth, but he grew into a commander who would shake the entire world. In his youth, Timur was wounded in the leg. From that day on, he was called Timur the Lame. But this did not stop him. Amir Timur loved knowledge. He studied history and the art of war deeply. Before every battle, he studied the history of his enemies. He once said, "Power lies in justice." But for his enemies, that justice was merciless. How Amir Timur came to power. Timur founded a new state, the Timurid Empire. In 1370, he made Samarkand his capital. He declared himself Amir. Years of rule, 1370 to 1405. 35 years of uninterrupted power. During his reign, Samarkand became one of the richest and most powerful cities in the world. The brutality of Emir Timur was one of the most ruthless commanders in history. Cities that resisted were completely destroyed. From rebels, towers of skulls were built. Thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, were executed in a single day. Historians estimate that 15 to 20 million people died as a result of Timur's campaigns. This does not mean he killed them all directly. These deaths include war, sieges, famine, and disease. Timur's rule was simple: fear, obey, survive. Emir Timur's hardest battles: the Battle of Ankara, 1402 against Ottoman Sultan Bayezid, the Thunderbolt, a battle that changed the fate of Europe. Bayezid was captured alive. The Indian campaign: extreme heat, disease, unfamiliar land. But Delhi was conquered. Campaigns in Iran and the Caucasus: continuous wars, endless bloodshed. These battles made Timur the only commander feared by both East and West. Territories conquered by Emir Timur. Timur conquered vast lands: Transoxiana, Iran, Iraq, the Caucasus, India, Delhi, Asia Minor, territories of the Golden Horde. Total territory: approximately 4 million square kilometers. The death of Emir Timur. In 1405, Timur died from illness. He passed away in the city of Otrar while marching to conquer China. Even in his final days, he lived with plans for new campaigns. He turned cities into ashes. He brought down empires. He made the world tremble. But his empire did not survive long after him. Napoleon Bonaparte ranked third in the top 5 1769 on the island of Corsica. A boy was born into an ordinary Corsican family, but he did not intend to remain ordinary. Napoleon's dream was one thing only: to change the fate of Europe. From a young age, Napoleon studied military strategy. At the same time, he was interested in mathematics and history. He once said, "Do not wait for opportunity, create it." Napoleon believed in speed, in unexpected tactics, and in psychological warfare. How Napoleon Bonaparte came to power during the French Revolution, 1789 to 1799. By 1799, the state was exhausted from revolutionary uprisings. Napoleon seized power by force. In 1804, he was declared Emperor of France. Years of rule: 1799 to 1815. He was deposed and restored several times, but in total, he ruled for 16 years. He completely changed the military and political map of modern Europe. The brutality of Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon was ruthless in war. During the European Wars, 1803 to 1815, millions of soldiers died. Cities and tribes that resisted faced severe punishment. His policy was to completely destroy or subdue his enemies. Estimates suggest 5 to 6 million people died as a result. Napoleon Bonaparte's hardest battles: the Battle of Austerlitz, 1805 against Russian and Austrian forces. Napoleon used his famous triangle tactic and won a decisive victory. The Battle of Borodino, 1812, during the Russian campaign, faced fierce resistance, cold, and hunger. Napoleon won, but with heavy losses. The Battle of Waterloo, 1815. The final defeat. The empire came to an end. Territories conquered by Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon's French Empire and territories under his influence: Italy, Spain, Netherlands, Belgium, parts of Germany, parts of Poland, France itself. Total territory: approximately 4.3 million square kilometers. The death of Napoleon Bonaparte, 1815. After his final defeat, 1821. He died on the island of St. Helena. Cause of death: likely stomach cancer or natural causes. Alexander the Great, ranked second in the top 356 BC in Macedonia, the son of King Philip II. But he was not an ordinary heir. On the night he was born, the temple of Artemis in Ephesus burned to the ground. At that moment, the prophets said, "A child has been born, who will set the world on fire." Fire. That child was Alexander. One of Alexander's teachers was Aristotle. He always carried a copy of the Iliad with him. He used to say, "I will go to the ends of the earth." The most astonishing fact: before the age of 30, he had conquered half of the known world. How Alexander came to power. 336 BC. His father, King Philip II, was assassinated. At just 20 years old, Alexander took the throne. He immediately crushed rebellions and began his campaigns. Years of rule: 336 to 323 BC. 13 years of non-stop war and conquest. He did not build a new state. He created a vast empire. The brutality of Alexander the Great. Alexander was young, but merciless. Cities that resisted. Thebes, completely destroyed. Rebellious populations. Mass executions. Toward his enemies, no mercy until surrender. Historians estimate that about 1 to 2 million people died as a result of his campaigns. His policy was clear: submit and live. Resist, and you will be destroyed. Alexander's hardest battles: the Battle of Gaugamela, 331 BC against the Persian king Darius III, outnumbered several times over. Yet Alexander achieved a total victory. The Battle of Issus, narrow terrain, extreme danger. But Alexander fought in the front lines himself. The Indian campaigns, extreme heat, disease, unknown enemies. His soldiers were exhausted. But Alexander did not stop. Territories conquered by Alexander the Great. The empire created by Alexander: Macedonia and Greece, Asia Minor, Egypt, the Persian Empire, Central Asia, parts of India. Total territory: approximately 5.2 million square kilometers. The death of Alexander the Great, 323 BC. Age: 32. The cause of death remains unclear. Possibly illness, possibly poisoning. When he died, his empire was left without an heir, and soon it collapsed. He never lost a battle. He was young. He was unstoppable. But his life was very short. Genghis Khan, ranked first in the top 5. Around 1162, years on the Mongolian steppes, a boy was born. His name was Temujin. He was not born a king. Instead, from childhood, he knew hunger, exile, humiliation. His father was poisoned and killed. His tribe abandoned the family. From an early age, Temujin learned one rule: to survive. Mercy does not exist. After the death of his father, the family fell into extreme poverty. Temujin's first killing came early. He killed his own brother for refusing to share food. Genghis Khan could not read or write, but he could read people. He had around 4 to 5 official wives and countless concubines taken as captives. Estimated at around 500, the exact number is unknown. He defeated enemies through fear. If one city resisted, the next surrendered without a fight. He once said, "If heaven has chosen me, then the world belongs to me." The rise of Temujin and the birth of an empire. In 1206, year Temujin united all Mongol tribes. He was given the title Genghis Khan, meaning ruler of the entire world. Thus, the Mongol Empire was born. Years of rule, 1206 to 1227. Years, 21 years of non-stop conquest. This empire became the largest land empire in human history. The brutality of Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan was the most ruthless commander in history. Cities that resisted were completely annihilated. Millions of people were put to the sword. In some regions, half of the population disappeared. Historians estimate that 30 to 40 million people died as a result of Mongol campaigns. His rule was simple: surrender and live, resist and be erased from history. Genghis Khan's hardest and most famous wars. The war against the Khwarezmian Empire, 1219 to 1221 years, against Shah Muhammad of Khwarezm. Central Asia was completely conquered. Campaigns in China, strong walls, powerful armies. But the Mongols did not stop. Campaigns in Central Asia and Iran, bloody, relentless, merciless. These wars shook the entire world. Territories conquered by Genghis Khan. Lands conquered by Genghis Khan and his armies. Mongolia, China, Central Asia, Iran, the Caucasus, Eastern Europe. Total territory, approximately 33 million square kilometers. This is an achievement no one else in history has ever matched. That is why he is considered the most terrifying conqueror the world has ever known. The death of Genghis Khan, 1227 year. The cause of death remains unknown, possibly from injuries, possibly from illness. Even at his death, the empire was still on the march, and after him, the Mongols continued to shake half the world. He destroyed civilizations. He reshaped the map of the world. Genghis Khan, the most powerful and the greatest land conqueror in human history.